We're gonna get started here. I'm gonna first ask you to introduce yourself so we can just at least have this, down for the centennial. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, right now. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, Brother Anderson. I'm Brother Jenkins, John M. Jenkins, and I'm a member of the Bowie Mitchellville Alumni Chapter, Kappa Alpha Psi. You know, that road for over 60 years, that I have been a brother. I'm not only just a brother for the 60 years or more, but I'm also a fully paid up brother for 60 years. In other words, I'm a financial brother for 60 years in a row. Even when I was overseas, I paid my dues. And a couple of chapters, with Silver Springs and of course with alumni chapter in Columbia, I was 2 years in a row for those two chapters. I was financial in both chapters. And then, of course, then when I went to Bowie Mitchellville down here, based on the recommendation of the Province Polemark to just go there just in case and needed some, advice on establishing this new chapter, I said when that happened, of course, my son, of course, Ernest, was also one of the charter members, and so he told me to stay with them for a while, so I stayed with that chapter for the first year, but I was financial in both that and Columbia. And of course, then starting with the second year with Bowie Mitchellville, I just stayed with Bowie Mitchellville.
Okay.
Now, how did I get to Kappa? My father died in 1937, and I was only about 14, 15 years old. And that was about 6 kids, in the family. And of course, my mother, she had to leave, went to New York, some places to work. And so I moved in with my grandfather, which was up in Ridgeway, North Carolina, and worked with him on a farm because his children, he had 11 kids, and of course, they had all left. And he needed some more help, on the farm, so we went up to help him out. Our whole family went there. So after I finished high school, of course, I wanted to go to college. Now, my mother wasn't able to send me to college, and neither were my grandparents. So I simply asked permission. Just give me permission to go, and I'll take care of myself.
What do you mean by that? So you had no money whatsoever, and
that's right.
You had gotten accepted to a school at that point.
That's right, but I just wanted to know if they give me permission to go, because if I'm helping him on the farm, he could have said, no, I need you here. Or my mother could have said, well, no, I want you to stay there and work. So I wanted to get their permission first to go. I said, but you don't have to worry about no expenses. I'll take care of it myself.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. They both gave me permission to go. So when I went to A&T, of course, I didn't even know where the college or university was. So when I got there, I had $5 in my pocket. And I asked the cab driver, I says, to take me over to North Carolina A&T College. At that time, it was a college. So he said, where do you want to go there? I said, take me to the president's house. I said, the president, I understand, is Dr. Bluford. So take me to his house. He said, fine. Took me over there.
So you had done some research before you had gone down there?
Well, I found out about that when I was in high school.
Okay.
In high school, I found out who the president was of A&T, and I wanted to go to A&T because one of my instructors was a graduate of A&T. And Dr. Lane, of course, he played on football at A&T. And, of course, I played some football and basketball in high school. And, of course, he had told me, why don't you go ahead to A&T? That's a good college. I said, fine. So that's why I decided to go there. So I wanted to find out as much as I could about it. Find out who the president was, and where it was located. He said it was located in Greensboro, North Carolina. And Dr. Bluford is the president there. And I said, fine. So I decided then I would start off at his house. So when he took me to the house, that is the cab driver, I knocked on the door, and the president came to the door. He answered, young man, what can I do for you? I said, sir, my name is John M. Jenkins. And I just finished high school. I said, my father deceased, and my mother is not able, I said, to send me to college, and neither are my grandparents. So I want to get an education, and I want to know if there's anything that you can do here to assist me in getting that degree. So he said, young man, come on in. I walked inside, And I met Mrs. Bluford. And she said, well, what can you do? Can you cook? I said, well, I said, I've been used to cooking pots and pans. I said, down around in the country, so I don't know anything about this fancy stuff that you have in here. I said, but as far as doing floors, I'm used to just getting on my knees, I said, and scrubbing, with a scrub brush and all on my knees because it's wood floors. But we didn't have no floors like these. I said, but of course I can learn that. So she said, well, I tell you, she said, if you could help me around the house right here, and that'll take care of your food. And we have some rooms upstairs, don't have any children, so we'll give you one of the rooms upstairs and you can stay there. And that will take care of the place that you can stay. I said, well, I certainly would appreciate that. So then the president said, well, look, you will need some money. So what I'm going to do is see what I can do. So he calls up the gentleman who cleaned up the rooms at the university. And he said, look, I have a young man over here. He says, and he needs some help. And I want you to give him 2 or 3 classrooms to clean up, he says, each week, each night. And at the end of the week, he says, whatever money that he has, I want you to put it in the registrar's office in his name. And that took care of that. He said, now you're going to need some spending change. He says, I'm going to send you down to the college inn, and I'm going to call him up and have you to go down there, help him out in the college inn. And he said, you will be working with the register, stacking shelves and helping them down there. That'll give you some spending change. So I said, that's fine. Thanked him very much. And of course, that's where I really got started. So then, that happened in July. We graduated from high school in June, and this was in July. Well, of course, then we started college in September.
What year is this?
This was in 1940. Let me see, I graduated in 1948, so that means 4 years back, that was 1944.
Okay.
1941, 44. Long during that time. But what I did prior to going to that, I volunteered to go into the service. That would help me with some money too. So what I did is join the Marines for a couple of years.
This is after you had gotten to college?
That's right.
Okay.
After I got to college, my freshman year. So what I did is volunteered for the Marines because they were fighting,
so this
in Europe and also in the Far East Command.
So this is during World War II that you volunteered
World War II.
while you were a college student?
While I was in college.
Okay.
So what I did is left to go in and spend my 2 years in that, came back, and then went back into A&T to finish up, get my degree.
Let's talk a little bit about your time in the service then.
Okay, well, when I went to the Marines, I went there, and got my training at New River, North Carolina. That's where they were training the blacks at that time, because they didn't have any black officers. So we left there, of course, and I went to Saipan, and I was with the invasion of that. I was with the 3rd Ammunition Company of the 1st Battalion, and that was in Saipan. They didn't give us anything except work details, either that or you got to be in transportation. So I served on Saipan, and then when they moved to Tinian, I served at Tinian. All of that was in the islands over there, and then from there to Okinawa, and from the Okinawa back into the United States.